as an industry, we have an obligation to make it a little bit smarter and easier. And I also think we end up getting people by coincidence, and we end up getting people that know people. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean we get all the best people. So if we want to get the best people in this industry, we need to change it a bit.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast lovers. This is the 150th episode of the Shipping Podcast. And I hope that you have subscribed to the show by now. If not, please do. And do me a favor. Go and tell a few of your friends to listen to this, because it's important. Those of you that have heard me before know that I'm very interested in how we can reach the next generation and how we can become more interesting to the smartest people out there. By accident, I came across the information that there is someone else who wants to join forces with me. And she decided to write a book describing all the different kinds of jobs that the maritime industry offers. The name of the book, which is not published yet, is The Maritime Industry, an Ocean of Opportunity. And in this episode, you will listen to the author, Peggy Hoegh Grays. I'm so happy that I caught her and that you will get to listen to her. I hope you will enjoy our conversation, and I will come back with Peggy's contact details after the interview. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Lena. My name is Peggy Hoegh Grays. Thank you so much for having me. I am a female working in the maritime industry, so I'm a rare species. Been in the industry for 24 years, and I am really passionate about the industry. I was on board a ship first time when I was 12, and ever since then I knew I wanted to be in the industry. And lately I have decided I wanted to write a book. It's called The Maritime Industry, an Ocean of Opportunity. And it's to create transparency on what opportunities are there actually for a career in this, what I find amazing industry. It's actually inspired a little bit by you, Lena, because you said it's the secret industry, right? So I was like, what can I do to make it more visible? And
wow, I feel responsible now. You wrote a book because of me.
Maybe I'll dedicate it to you when it's done, Lena.
As long as you don't send me a debit note, I'm fine.
No, I'll send you a copy of the book. Don't worry.
So what is your background, Peggy?
Well, my background is mainly ship operations. So I've been majority of my career in operations, and that has been project cargo, chemical tankers. So I've been really focused on the niche markets, which I find is also where more knowledge is required. So I've also created my own training programs. I did like a boot camp for ship operators because I was tired of explaining the basics to every trainee I got. And I'm thinking there's probably a lot of middle managers sitting out there tired of repeating themselves to a brand new, employee. Can I take some of that, maybe a little bit, generic stuff, and move it away from very busy middle managers? Then they can start a little bit further along, after sending people to this course.
Because when I got to know you the first time, I think you were in Texas, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been 13 years abroad. I'm originally born in Denmark, and that's where I had the first 10 years of my career. But I initially wanted to be in the industry because I wanted to be an expat. I wanted to live abroad and learn about cultures and learn how to, act around, other cultures than my own. So I started in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, just to make it simple, right? And then I was in Singapore, and the last 10 years I've been in Houston, and I just returned to Denmark actually 1.5 months ago.
So what did you do in Malaysia?
I also did ship operations.
Okay.
That was a Danish company that I worked for in Denmark for 1 year, and then they sent me, and that was actually the same company I worked for in Houston some of the time. I've also worked for port agents in US, and then right now I have moved into a freight forwarder, DSV, where I do renewable energy. We're moving wind turbines.
So great. You have so much experience.
I do, and I've really, learned every job I've had. I've always picked jobs where I could learn something new. So that has been a lot of fun. I don't like, monotonous stuff, and I can't do the same every day. And that's, I think, the beauty of a ship operator's job, especially, that there's always different stuff landing on your table every day.
So for the listeners who doesn't know what a ship operator do, what do you actually do?
I think the closest description is it's an octopus position, because the ship operator is the connecting person between the ship, between the technical department, between the port agents, between the customer that want their cargo on board, because between the port agent that needs to get the ship in and out of port, between accounting, make sure we get all the invoices paid, and the ship operator also make sure there's always fuel enough on the ship. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it has a lot. It requires a lot of different skills, actually. Like, you need to know numbers, you need to speak languages, you need to understand, have the grand overview, coordinate, be structured. So. And that is actually one of the positions that, of course, I started describing, because I hear that a lot. Like, so what does a ship operator actually do? And in, oil and gas, they also have operation, but that is a completely different position. So I think worldwide, there's a different perception from different angles. What is operation actually? Usually it's something with coordinating and making sure everything falls into place at the right time. So
sounds like a good job for a woman.
It is. I've actually had some, men saying, oh, women are better operators. And I don't think we should always generalize. I think a lot of women have good skills. And that's also why it's so unfortunate that I have been sometimes the only woman in the office and the only ship operator out of 16 operators in one company. Because, we do have a lot of skill sets that are required. Are we doing them better than the guys? I'm not sure. I think it's a very individual task. And one of my colleagues once said, well, ship operations, it's not rocket science, is it? And I said, no, it's not. But there's a big difference between an average operator and a good operator. And the challenge is you don't see a good operator because everything is just running smoothly. You only see the bad operator, because then you see all the mistakes happening. Right. So, and every mistake you make costs money.
But I understand you have also an education from a Blue MBA.
That is correct. 3 years ago, I decided it was time to invest in myself. It was time to put some more tools in my toolbox, and I just love learning. So every day in that classroom, I loved. Every day in my office writing assignments was a challenge on top of in US 50 to 60 hours a week job, right? So it was a challenge, but it was definitely an investment that I have never regretted doing. And I do feel the position I got now, I would not have been able to land if I hadn't had that toolbox with me. It definitely is an added strength.
So besides me to blame, how did you come up with the idea of writing a book?
Well, it came up because when I first started I wanted to get into the maritime industry. My stepdad was a seafarer. So he could only guide me on how to go on board a ship, which he talked me out of, because he knew as a female in the 90s, that was probably going to be a challenge, right? So we started looking in the yellow pages, and that's literally where I was looking for, okay, where do I apply? I just sent unsolicited applications to 10 different companies that he said, okay, this is a cargo company, this is a ferry, you don't want to, be in the ferry, So he kind of highlighted it. And then I was sitting at one of my job interviews, and they're like, oh, where would you like to start? Would you like to start in chartering or operation? And I was completely blank. Like, I had no clue what this guy was talking about. And that's why I was like, how can I dress people that want to go into this industry? How can I make them a little bit more knowledgeable so they can make the right choice if they're actually being asked where you want to go, right? Because out of comfort, I was like, oh, I can start in administration as well, which after 2 weeks, I was like, I don't want to be in administration. I want to be in operation where everything is happening. But, and eventually I got my way worked in there. Fortunately, we could choose again after 1 year. But I still feel I lost some of my own traineeship on, an average office job where I could have been in the heat from the start. And that's where I just think as an industry, we have an obligation to make it a little bit smarter and easier. And I also think we end up getting people by coincidence, and we end up getting people that know people. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean we get all the best people. So if we want to get the best people in this industry, we need to change it a bit, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I feel I can contribute a little bit to, sparking an interest with people that may not even have thought about this environment or industry.
I think you can take over the shipping podcast because you're saying all the things I usually say. I think we need to make ourselves more available and attractive to young people, to people in general, of course. But also, as you have started to describe, what do we actually do? Because there might be people with an education from somewhere else that would fit in to our maritime industry as well.
Exactly. And I think with the book, I'm also trying to describe that no matter what your skill set is, there is a spot for you in the maritime industry, right? So that's what I'm trying to highlight. I mean, we have accountants, but once you've become a specific maritime accountant, that is job security because there's a shortage. There's a shortage of operators. Like I've never been unemployed for very long because there's just not enough with the experience and the knowledge. So if you're open to not, being stuck in the same place, of course. I mean, if you insist on getting a job in the same town all the time, there's a little bit more lead time, right? And then there's 100% guarantee, basically, that you can live abroad if that's what your desire is. And I see that more and more with younger people. They are hungry for the world, right? Sometimes feeling like I'm a millennial ahead of my time. Because I have some of the same things that they like. I need a purpose, I need to do things differently. So I can relate a little bit when people
I can totally relate to that as well. So maybe there is something called a last century millennial. I don't know.
maybe so. Pre-millennial.
Pre-millennial. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So how have you structured the book? Did you start by describing the industry and where the different jobs are, or how did you structure it?
I started just highlighting what are the advantages of joining this industry and my perspective, my experience. And then I've just started describing a lot of roles in the industry just to be very tangible and specific. The jobs that I wasn't too sure about, I've asked friends and colleagues, can you describe this role? Because I think it belongs here, but I don't know enough about it. And you could describe it so much better. And it's a work in progress. It's really, I would encourage everybody that want their position in my book. Just, maybe you can share my email at the notes or something. I definitely encourage this to be a dialogue and not a monologue, right?
Tell them your email address to start with.
That is PeggyHoegh@gmail.com.
I will share it in the show notes, I promise you. So how did you describe the industry? What were the unique selling points of working here?
Well, I describe it as a very international environment where in one day you can just speak to 10 different nationalities. You have to all the time change pace because sometimes you have to, especially in my position, you had to dive into details and you have to make decisions on a really short notice because time is money. So it's dynamic and it's always challenging. And I'm just fascinated by the fact that ships float, right? That whole physics. So it's just, when you go on board and you see it's a whole little unit of its own, a whole little factory, self-sufficient in everything. And the respect you have to show these people out on the ships, the challenges they go through and the understanding you have to have on shore to always be the support function. And that is why I started doing training as well. My thesis in the Blue MBA was also about a training academy, because I do feel if we can support them better from shore, if we can be more well-educated and knowledgeable, there's going to be less incidents on board the ships, because there's going to be less pressure for those guys and ladies out there if we can actually provide them with the facts they need and not be an aggravation, which I know for a fact is happening every day, that there's a silo, there's a big gap between ship and shore.
So how can we change the perspective? How can we raise the profile of the maritime industry? I always ask, how can we become more visible? But that is in the same question, I think, because we need to attract the best ones to us.
And we need to start really early. I think that's where we're missing the boat. I talked to a lady from Houston School District, and they do career training at 12 years old. So if you think you can catch their interest in college, it's too late, right? And I know that in Denmark, they have made this game, the Danish Ship Owners Association, or Danish Shipping, whatever it's called now, have made this game that I was lucky enough to peek and see what it was about. And they go to the schools and play that to just create interest. We need to do, and I think they've also in Denmark done some e-games and stuff like that to kind of catch that age group, right? I don't see that. I don't know what you do in Sweden, but I haven't seen that being done anywhere else in the world, right? So Denmark is definitely the role model and ahead of the game, knowing where to start. But that doesn't change the fact that we gotta catch up with the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's possible to listen to the previous episode with Anne Trolle. She's the project lead on this one, and she said that they have now changed the target group to be from 12 years old, because that is when, they have a YouTube channel, and the young people are on YouTube, so you need to be visible there early to show that there are different occupations.
And I have seen some of those YouTube videos, which is, they're definitely talking to the kids and the young people. It's the speed. It's not like that they have to read a book. So I think my book is more like a handbook for when you maybe get inspired, but I wish that it would be distributed to counselors, like career advisors around the globe, really. It's in English, but if you don't speak English, you should learn that before you start, because that is the language of the maritime industry, right?
Have you also spoken to any recruitment companies? I think there is probably a lack of knowledge if you're not specifically focusing on the maritime industry, on how to recruit people here. Also on the sea level and when you're recruiting people, you need to know what they are supposed to do.
I think you're absolutely right. And I have, in my lifetime, talked to a couple of recruiters where you're like, I'm not really sure you know what this role is. So, it's only really when you go and do the interview with the company that you realize maybe this was not a good match, or maybe it was a good match, right? So yeah, I think that's probably a good place to start as well. So good suggestion.
I'm not trying to load any more work on you, because I think you got enough already.
Hey, we got to spread the rings in the water, right? So any suggestions are welcome.
Did you have a role model growing up?
I did. I actually had, first of all, my mom is a role model. My mom allowed me to be whoever I wanted to be. Like, she gave me early ability to make choices on my own, but only, within the limits of my age, right? Not the big ones that stressed me out. But she's always just accepted me for exactly who I am, and never tried to push any, high profile career. I know some parents want their daughters and sons to be doctors and lawyers and all the traditional, fields. So I think she really allowed me to grow into the person I really am, and just own it and be proud of it. And then I had a really good ship operator that trained me. And I think, and I was in an environment in a company that actually ended up going bankrupt. So it was a very tough environment. We had hardly any supervision because everybody was really busy. And actually one time I forgot to to order fuel for the ship because I was so young and so, unsupervised. But trust me, I'll never forget that again, right? And we ended up bunkering in a very expensive place, but at least the ship didn't run out. So I think, I think it was just like one oversight from my supervisor and boom, you made a big mistake, right? But I also think that if you don't give your trainees that room to make mistakes, they're never going to grow. They got to get out into the deep water, but knowing you have the safety net under them to catch them when they fall, but you got to let them stumble and you got to let them fall and make their own experience, because otherwise you're just not making them experienced and confident ship operators in the end, right? So I had this one lady that trained me, and it was tough love, and I kind of passed that on to my trainees. I've had a couple of people telling me, man, I hated you sometimes, but afterwards I understood why you did it. And I was like, I was not there to be your friend. I was there to make you a really good ship operator. That was my task. And then we can be friends outside of work. We can go for a drink. But I actually did it because I care about you, right? And that has been one of the best feedback I ever got from the people that I've been working with, was we feel that you really cared. And I always cared. I care about people. And I think we need more of that in this industry, because it can sometimes be very cold and cynical and about money. And I think we need more of those soft skills. We need more empathy. We need more emotional intelligence. And we need to dare to be vulnerable, right? Because I think we're missing out on a lot of opportunity, on innovation. I think on the technical side, the maritime industry is pretty well off. Like technically, they're always developed and adjusted. But in terms of leadership, I think we are way behind. And I think that's where we could lose a lot of talent. Because, I mean, I don't even know if talent development is a focus in some companies, right? I don't even know if diversity, inclusion, equity is a focus. But I do believe if we got more females into this industry, I think it would balance out. And I think it would add to the innovation and how people would like to stay in the companies if they felt that they matter, that they're not just a number.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm totally with you on this one. But do you feel like a role model yourself today?
I'm trying to be. I'm trying to, go forward with taking the high road and always leading with example, walking the talk. I'm trying, when I see people maybe need a hand, offer to be a mentor, offer to see if I can help them with some knowledge. I always offer to share my knowledge. And I realized we did this IDI questionnaire when I did my Blue MBA. And I realized I actually get energy from helping other people. So it's actually, if I can help somebody one day, I actually am really high when I go home. So that's always a motivation, of course, but I'm not just doing it for me. I'm doing it because I feel an obligation. If you come with resources, you have an obligation to share that resource.
Have you seen any good initiatives that is leading us towards a better leadership and all of that? Have you seen anything in the industry that you think is really good?
I can't remember exactly what the project is called, but I do think that some of the big Danish, I hate to bring up the Danish ship owners again, but I think the Danish ship owners have made one initiative about getting more women in the industry. And I'm not completely in the details on that, but I think that's what makes me proud to be a Dane, right? That at least somewhere they are doing something about it. I think a place like Iceland, where they have a law against unequal pay for genders. And I do also think that is a little bit outside of the industry, but I think when Norway did 40% of all boards had to be women, I'm the first one to admit I thought it was a crappy idea when I first heard about it, because I was like, I would never want to be a board member if it was because I was like the least attractive, but at least I'm a woman. But then I thought about, well, we have to disrupt it somehow. Apparently we can't disrupt it organically. So hopefully if we disrupt it now, eventually it will organically be just the norm, right? That it is just a higher percentage of women in the boards. And it turns out all the, statistics and science is showing that they are just thriving better if it's diverse board. It's not just, about female and male. Diversity is so many things, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget about that. Well, I am not for the quota, so I will not argue with you, but I understand your point of view. I still think that there might be other ways to achieve diversity and inclusion. But yeah.
How do we disrupt, though, Lena? I mean, I'm not arguing that there's no right or wrong. I think it's a challenging discussion. So I'm no way saying that you're wrong. I'm just out of ideas. How can we stick, a disruption stick in that wheel?
Yeah, I agree. I don't have the answer. If I had, I wouldn't be doing this, I think. But I think I heard the other day that in the US, there are more females in the boardrooms now.
Okay.
And from my experience, there are more females in a management level in Europe. So if we could merge the two together, maybe we could, have a different result.
Yeah.
But when we were at the Vista International AGM and conference in the Cayman Islands last year, we listened to Patrick Dahlgren, who I have also interviewed on this podcast. And he was talking about their philosophy to recruit a lot of women because, there will be a lack of seafarers.
Yeah.
If there isn't already a lack of seafarers. So they also need to recruit female seafarers. And that is why they are so eager to actually have a good program for getting them on board, both on board the ships, but also into the land organization. And one of the examples is Captain Kate. I mean, she's great. She's more than great on Instagram and social media.
She really is. She's such a big role model. Yeah.
And there are a few more of them working together with her, as we could see on the 8th of March on the International Women's Day this year, where they have all female crew on board that cruise ship.
Yeah. And then I think in support of that, I really also want to recognize Ali Cedeno for creating Women Offshore and creating a network where you actually feel like you're not alone out there, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it can be lonely, and I think we don't talk about that enough either.
So important.
How do we kind of bridge the gap to them feeling a part of something bigger?
Isn't it interesting that there is a lot of women who are doing these new initiatives? I mean, like Ali, like me, like Kate, like I don't want to compare myself to them because they are outstanding. But have we seen a lot of men doing these new kinds of things, innovative things into the industry? I don't know. I haven't seen it.
No, not in the industry. I think we have to look a little bit outside of the industry, where you have one of my big idols is Simon Sinek, where he's done a lot of workshops on actually finding out why you are doing things, find your big why. And then Brené Brown, who usually I give the Dare to Lead book to leaders who are mature enough to receive it, because not all the leaders I've been working with are mature enough to understand the soft skills are important. But she really nails a lot of that vulnerability and caring in that book. So,
but I would welcome some men to come into this industry and talk about the things that we are talking about. Loneliness at sea. That also has to happen for men, even if it's not in the same way as Ali is talking about.
Yeah.
And the soft skills that is needed. So if there is anyone out there that wants to, just give us a buzz and we will try and help.
Yep, exactly. We'll help you get started.
How do you see the future for the maritime industry when it comes to jobs? Are we moving into sort of new jobs that will appear now, post-pandemic?
Post-pandemic, I think there's going to be definitely an evaluation on how much can we work from home. I've personally landed a job where I can work 90% from home, which gives me the ability to live close to my mom in a, very remote area of Denmark. And I don't think I would have ever imagined that happen. I do think that could attract more women as well. If we get a little bit more flexibility so that you can maybe be there for your kids or, whenever it's important, right? And not just be focused on the 9-to-5 workday. I mean, artificial intelligence, autonomous ships, it's a reality. And I think we shouldn't be afraid of it. We should embrace the change. And then we should just think of it as that taking away monotonous stuff, and we can just do bigger things. So I don't think you should be afraid of artificial intelligence. I think you should more just see it as a tool, like the computer, the car, the airplane, just evolution, right? So I think there's definitely going to be a different environment. Is it going to change remarkably in my time, my career? Not so sure. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than that for those things, at least, to kick in.
Mm-hmm. But we also see that training has become different. I mean, you can do digital training now. You couldn't really do that before.
I think you could, but I think you just appreciated the classroom training dynamics. And I'm not saying that it's not there. I just think sometimes we do see the physical distance as an obstacle, where maybe we should think out of the box. And I think that's really what I like about COVID, if we should just find something positive, that it made us all think out of the box. It made us all think, how can we just do things differently within the frames we have right now without panicking, just accepting the chaos.
Yeah. Who do you think I should interview the next? Who do you think I should reach out to?
I would like to hear a podcast with Henrik Poulsen, the CEO of Ørsted. And the reason for that is they are known as a very popular employer. They are very high on diversity and integrity. And I really want to kind of hear his perspective. How did he get there, right? What have they done? And how long have they been working on all these initiatives? Because I mean, diversity and inclusion doesn't come overnight. I mean, you got to start out. And I feel that the maritime industry hasn't even started yet. They've maybe scratched a nail somewhere, but they haven't really had the courage to just go and dive into it. So I would just like, especially because I think we're not very good at looking outside of the industry. Ørsted is still borderline our industry. So, but I would like to just see what can we learn from them? How do, maritime companies create an attractive workspace? Because that's going to benefit all of us, right? How do we attract talent and retain them as well?
Well, Peggy, best luck with your book.
Thank you so much.
And I will make sure that your email address will be available to all the listeners.
Awesome.
And I expect to hear back from you once you have published it.
Oh, I'll definitely let you know, and you'll get a copy, Lena. Then you can let me know what you think. And,
thank you very much.
Let me know if I need some more positions in there.
Yeah, I hope you have podcaster in there.
Yeah, maybe I should get that in there.
So you can have me and Ali.
Exactly. Two great examples.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. Thank you, Peggy. There were so many tidbits in there that I hope the audience was listening to. Otherwise, it's easy to rewind. Just a reminder for everyone to send in a job description of your job to Peggy. Her email is peggyhoegh@gmail.com. That is PEGGYHOEGH@gmail.com. I will write it in the show notes of this episode as well. I am planning for next year now, so I'm interested in who you want to listen to in future episodes. What kind of topics do you think I should focus on? I'd really like to hear from you, so please drop me a line at hello@shippingpodcast.com and tell me. I read all the emails and messages I receive. I try to find time to reply to them as well. But if you haven't heard from me yet, I apologize. I promise I will write to you because I really appreciate all the feedback that I get. I have to run now. Thank you for listening. Until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.